Hi, and welcome to Silent No Longer. I'm Mesha, and I'm truly grateful you're here. This podcast is a safe, judgment free space for healing, hope, and conversation for anyone who has lived through toxic or abusive relationships. I know what it feels like to be trapped, unheard, and unseen. I've walked through years of toxicity, financial hardship, and spiritual battles. But through faith, God restored my strength, and I found freedom. Now, my purpose is to help others discover the same healing and breakthrough. On this podcast, we'll share stories of resiliency, transformation, and faith. I'll open up about my own journey and we'll hear from guests who have walked similar paths and come out stronger. My goal is to remind you that you are not alone, that healing is possible, and that your past does not define your destiny. If what you hear resonates with you, you can dive deeper into my story in my book, Behind Closed Doors. And for those ready to take the next step in their healing, you can schedule a free clarity call with me if you're ready to break chains, release bondages, overcome limited beliefs, and build confidence and self worth. Thank you for joining me today. It's an honor to be part of your journey, and I can't wait to walk with you through this season of healing, hope, and breakthrough. Welcome to Silent No Longer, where your past is a chapter and not the whole book. Today's guest is Skye. She survived a wrong way crash doctors said she'd never recover from, but she proved them wrong. 12 surgeries later, she walked, thriving and still an athlete, all while surviving a 20-year abusive marriage. Skye's story is raw, powerful, and full of grace. Thank you for being here today, Skye.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here.
Can you just start with telling us your story?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I said I was married to a narcissist for 20 years. And when I ultimately filed for divorce, we'll talk about how that came about. Somebody lent me a book called Stop Walking on Eggshells. And so there's a quiz. It's about borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, BPD and NPD. So I took the quiz in the beginning to see if you're in the relationship with a narcissist. Oh my God, Nisha, I answered all the questions. My ex fit all 30 boxes. So
Wow.
absolutely 100%, absolutely positively in a narcissistic abusive relationship. So, but just to back up a little bit, during the pandemic, my ex decided he was going to go on a trip. We were still married and he did. The night he left, I was just hanging out with friends and just having dinner or whatever, chit chatting. And they're like, oh my God, Skye, you're like laid back. You're like even kind of funny. There's like no stress. What's going on? What's changed? I went, oh my God, he's not here. I'm not walking on eggshells.
Mm.
Just like ultimately that book would come into my life. And they went, wow. And then, oh my God, they just exploded with all they saw me having like a little aha moment and it just exploded that whole 10 days he was gone, them telling me all the lies and the falsehoods and I had been in that car wreck and he was convincing all my friends and some of my colleagues that I was brain damaged, like and not making sense or whatever. And I was like, they're all going, what? No, she seems fine. She's working. She's functioning in life. Everything seems fine. She's walking again, all that. And he was like, "Oh, no, no, no." He had convinced so many people that and even people that were around the table that night, and they still hung out with me because they saw something different. They're like or he convinced them, "Well, she needs your help. Skye needs your help. You just need to be with her." And I'm like, so they were my friends, but then when they opened up to me, that was just golden. I mean, by the time he got back, I had found an attorney. And one thing I had learned along the way, he always wanted me to be interested in finances. And I was on a podcast recently where we talked really about the financial side and how a lot of times uh, females are not as interested as they could be or should be in what the marital assets are, what the investments are, what the expenses, what it costs to run the household. So when he got back, I suddenly was interested. I'm like, you've been wanting to talk about the budget. Um, let's do that. Let's sit down. And I've written 2 books of a trilogy so far. And Breaking Soul is the first book. I have Tally do that. I have the main character do that. Just suddenly become interested. What you would need to find out is what is that bottom line? What is the total marital assets? So if you are going to make the step away, the break from your abusive relationship, particularly marriage, you need to find out what's going to be the split. And so got all the information, filed, and then, I was stuck in the marital house for 6 months till I could like get my finances together and get a rental place and all that. So 2 weeks after I filed, and again, narcissists go back to like the love bombing and the hoovering and bringing my favorite flowers and leaving on the counter every day and whatever. Um, but by then I was starting to see, and I'll tell you what, Misha, during that 6 months, I learned to be very, I won't say hyper vigilant, but radar was up. And I learned so much about narcissists, not only through my own research, but just watching his behaviors became very predictive. You
Mhm.
knew how he was going to react. You knew what he was going to say. You knew what he was going to do. So 2 weeks after I filed, I said, because all the daily rages, oh my God, I got yelled at so much. I said, you haven't yelled at me in 2 weeks. And he said, yeah, I finally figured out yelling at you was not the way to handle you. And I thought, oh, so I need a handler. So I'm like, So go through making my pros and cons list, because they make you doubt. You've been in this relationship for decades, and your self esteem is teetering. You don't trust your own decision making anymore. They doubt your recall. They make you doubt every decision you make, every action you take. And it's a downward spiral. And so you become kind of a shell of the person you used to be. And so I was like, okay, well, am I doing the right thing? I mean, I think I am. I think I am. My counselor says I am. Everything's going as it should be. I think I'm doing the right thing and getting out of this. Pros and cons list, right around down. Went up there, and this was is before I moved out. So probably a couple of months into this process. I went up there and said, when we were in college, you told me, and I saw it about your parents being very demanding, manipulative, controlling, that kind of thing. And you wanted me to help you not be like them. And I said, okay, as an empath, people pleaser, empath, all that. I said, of course I'll help you, honey. Of course.
Mhm.
Do you know what? He became the spitting image of them. And his sibling did too. And so one day I just said, you asked me to not let that happen, and you're just like them. And again, he said, well, of course I am. It takes that kind of personality to manage you and the household and family and all that. And I'm like, okay, fine. I made the right choice. I had my pros and cons list. Pro, time for divorce. And so filed. I had already filed by that time. And so got out, and then it was just like my life changed. I mean, a personal trainer, I'd come in from work to the rental house, and the little puppy that's like flicking my ankle right now would be there with me at the door, all happy to see me. But I mean, I'd pull in that garage, Misha, and I would just have what I call my garage meltdown. I mean, this 21 months, he fought me the whole way, divorcing him for 21 months. And it was just battles every day. And at one point, we were supposed to go to court, and the judge was talking with the attorneys and said he had a friend that just passed away and he needed to go to the funeral. And this marriage with so many assets and so the longevity of it and all that shouldn't take but just a couple of hours. So could we just go, had to go to funeral that morning. Could we just come in that afternoon? And my ex's attorney told that judge what my ex was like and the trouble he would cause. And the judge said, well, I don't want him in my courtroom. Go mediate it. So it went into mediation, and ultimately we settled. But it was crazy. He raged his attorney. He tried to get his attorney fired for losing the divorce. She has a restraining order against him. Like
Mm.
it's just a bunch of crazy stuff. But to everybody else, he's telling them I'm the crazy one. And so, and just that whole journey, after being hit by a wrong way driver on the interstate, and the doctor saying I'd never live or walk again, and I was in a coma, and they said, oh, she'll be a vegetable if she ever wakes up. Obviously I'm not. And I got use of my arm back, 12 surgeries, 6 years of my life, got use of my legs back, water skiing, snow skiing, trying to snow ski, all that
Mhm.
good stuff. But and then hosted some TV shows and developed some curricula for college or whatever, but he's convinced everybody that I am unstable. So it's just a conundrum. It's really a conundrum. So once people filled me in on what he was saying and doing, that's when I stepped up and took action. And another thing, when I coach people through these scenarios, dealing with abusive relationships, working through challenges, overcoming obstacles, going through changes, I talk with them about what I call the 20 reasons why. And it's a program, it's on my website, skybellarmine.com. It's 20 reasons why. And it's just an exercise for whatever you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to decorate your dining room or do some yard projects or start a new career or go back to school or whatever you're doing, whatever goals you have, write, write a couple of books. You need to have the
Mhm.
20 reasons why you're doing it and keep that handy because especially if you're stepping away from an abusive relationship, you need to remind yourself and others. I sent that 20 reasons why to my attorney a couple of times during that 21 months because you need to realize that you're doing what you're supposed to do, what you're being called to do. And I'll tell you what, it was, gosh, I guess about 3 months after I filed and I sat down and actually one of my friends recommended that I do this exercise. Took me about 15 minutes, maybe not even that long, to write down boom, 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 just 20 reasons why. I typed it all up, sent it to my attorney, kept it handy. And I will tell you, I pulled it out probably about 5 or 6 times at least during that 21 months, just to remind myself all this, HE double toothpicks I was going through in this process, why I was doing it and that it was
Mhm.
the right thing to do and that I'm going to come out on the other side. And that's another message that I try to get out to people too, because the narcissist or the toxic person in your life is making you feel unworthy. They're making you feel like you're not good enough and
Yeah.
that every problem in the relationship is your fault. I mean, there's a scene in Breaking Solace, and they're fictional psychological thrillers. Book 1 and 2, Breaking Solace, Escaping Solace, and Without Solace will be out this coming year in the spring. But they're based on my story, on the experiences that I had with a narcissist in my life, but it's fiction of the author's imagination, all that, because it is. It's based on truth, but it's really a fictional story. And so I have situations in the book that I experienced that I could speak to. And interestingly, on launch day on both of these books, it went into like 4 nations in number 1 categories of self-help books. So it
Mhm.
transformed on launch day from a psychological thriller fictional novel into self-help books. And one of my friends who's a psychiatric nurse said on launch day, she was watching it. She said these books were going on to bookshelves with psychologists that she read and studied for work, like the authenticity of the story because it is based on life circumstances. And so
Mhm.
it's been very cathartic to write through it. But I will tell you what, it brings back, I mean, just the memories and the tears and all that. I mean, I can't tell you how many tears were shed during that 20 years because they, particularly narcissists, like to make cutting remarks and just cut you down. And then when you cry or you get emotional, whatever, they're like, oh, I was just kidding.
Yeah,
I,
or, "Oh, you're too
oh,
sensitive."
you're too sensitive. Oh my God. Misha, I heard that so many times. You're too emotional. Even during
Yes.
legal depositions,
Mhm.
he would say, well, Jenny's she's not quite mentally stable and she's way too emotional and she's way too sensitive. And I'm just like, what? It's just this crazy stuff that they say, but they're trying to make everybody around them think you're the crazy one. But then when you step away, you realize, oh, wow. Like during that divorce, I remember every morning waking up with that pit of the stomach fear, like, oh my God, what's he going to say today? What's he going to do today? And then once you're done with it, that just all washes away, and I do a program on talking about fear and you hear acronyms like, um, fret everything and run or face everything and rise and all that. But fear is in here. I know, don't touch a hot stove and don't run with scissors and that kind of stuff. There's those, but there's these psychological fears, and it's fear and finances from what I'm seeing from most people that are staying in these toxic
Mhm.
narcissistic relationships. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the stories that I hear most because even now that I'm out of it, I know friends that are in these types of relationships and they, on the side, they've been honest with me, but they say, "I just can't leave." And then you see them on Facebook or social media, wherever, like, "Oh, look at us. Everybody's smiling on vacation," or whatever. Like, okay, well, why keep playing that game? But it gets into having the mindset and the courage. And I always talk about kind of building a tribe, like just having a handful of people that are really in your court that got your back, your attorney and your counselor, your sibling, if you have that relationship, a best friend. Just so I have that in Tally's life in the book series. There's just a few people who really know her story because I've still run into people in the grocery store. They're like, "Oh my God, you seem so happy." I said, "Well, it's real now." Like
Yeah.
neighbors and all that. And I ran into one in Trader Joe's the other day and she started telling me everything that he had been saying about me after I left, after I moved out. All lies. All lies. And they're like, "You're just like Skye, you're like glowing. Like I said, I'm happy.
Mhm.
I'm out of it and I'm happy. And that's what you're looking for. And I try to help people see you can come out on the other side. Even though you're being told you're not enough and you're to blame. And there was like I guess I started into a scene a minute ago and I stopped. In Breaking Solace, there's a scene where Blake, the narcissistic husband, clears the room. Like he makes those cutting remarks to every single person around the dinner table. And one by one, like, wait, didn't your mom say she needed everybody had an excuse. Like everybody just left. It was like 5 different couples to just suddenly and then Blake's like, "Oh my God, Telly, like, wait, where is everybody?" And she said, "You cleared the room. Everybody's gone home." He said, "But why?" So, "Well, you said this to this person and this is like just went around." And that's based on a true scene. That's based on a
Mm.
true scene. Yeah. And and after everybody left that night, after dinner, after my ex had said stuff to everybody, he was like, "Well, it's because of you." He said, you said stuff too." I said, "No, I didn't." And he said, "Well, they're probably not gonna come back over because of you." I said, That's absolutely not true." You said and if you try to call them out, don't ever call a narcissist a narcissist. So I learned to don't ever because they'd throw it right
Mhm.
back on you. "No, you're the narcissist," whatever. And so but I just left it, and there was times, oh my God, the rages, they come out of nowhere. They just start yelling at you, and I heard that he yelled at his attorney quite often, and you just keep listening all those car rides where you're staring out the window, with a few tears just because you can't take the comments anymore, but you're in a car and you can't get out. There's you can't leave them because if I left the room when he start yelling at me, he said, "You're running away again." No, I'm just going to get some peace and quiet. That's all I'm doing. I
Yeah.
mean, you've experienced that stuff too, right?
Mhm. Well, as far as the crying part, I'd grown up in that kinda atmosphere my entire life, so it got to the point where I wouldn't cry around people. I would just shut down. I would cry when I was by myself. I locked myself in the bathroom a lot to cry, or at night before I went to sleep, I'd cry a lot, but never give a satisfaction to let somebody see me cry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but as far as, being in the car, having somebody yell and scream at you, I can remember it was my birthday, and we were in the car, and he never told me happy birthday, but yelled at me all day, made me feel like total crap all day, and the only thing I could think about all day is, "This is why I don't like my birthday, because why am I gonna like a day that is always gonna be horrible?" You know? So, I don't celebrate holidays, I don't celebrate birthdays because my entire life, it was always somebody ruining it for you so you can enjoy it. So, I just don't
Mhm.
like it, and everybody's like, "Why don't you like holidays? Why don't you" they don't understand. So, it's
Yeah.
still trying to get I mean, it's been a couple of holidays now, and I still struggle. And my kids too, they're like, "Well, I just don't wanna do my birthday," and, I mean, it probably happened to them too, because you have to do everything for that person to make them feel so special, but when it comes to your day, um, I would have like, if I had a job interview, he'd be like, "Let me drive you," and, like, tear me down all the way, but I wouldn't let it affect me because I was by that time in my life, I was able to basically just check out and carry on with my life because I was just so
Mhm.
used to it. It was just second nature to me.
Right. Right.
And but yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, I hear you. I
And
hear
then,
you.
like, holidays, they'd never buy you a gift, and this I never understood this. They'd never buy you a gift that would arrive on time. You would get presents for them and everybody else, and then the kids would be like, "Well, where's mom's present? Did you get her anything?" And then, they would be like, "Oh, yeah, it's in the mail." You have all year to figure out a gift. And it was always the same thing. There was a running joke in my house that, "Oh, what are you gonna get, another coffee pot this year?" 'Cause every year I either got coffee pot or pots and pans, but, like, for, like, 3 to 5 years in a row, for my birthday and Christmas, I would get a coffee pot.
Yeah, the
I was like,
selection.
"What?" At some point, I was like, "Is this just supposed to be a joke now?" It was so funny. But, yeah, and
Well,
then I would get
my
something, and it would come in the mail, like, 2, 3 months later, and by then,
yeah.
it's my birthday, you know?
Well,
I
have
don't know.
did you find things like okay, so let's say the coffee pots or
Mhm.
some gift, that you received, did you just got rid of like, after the divorce or the split or whatever, you just it triggers? You just get
Mm-mm.
rid of it? I mean, there was a balsamic vinegar and olive oil little carafe thing and it's supposed to actually not be clear, you're supposed to not have it it was one of the clear ones, but I
Yeah.
remember when he got that for me, and it sat on the island, and it was there most of the rages were in the kitchen. It was there, and so after I moved out, I just threw that away. I thought because it brought back or there would be like a pillow that was always there when I'd be standing there listening to him cut me down or whatever. And so there's certain I know that sounds kind of material, but I was like, "No, I'll just give that away. I'll just give it away. You know, let's donate it. It'll have happy memories for somebody else." Like just different things you see
Mm.
just kind of bring back a scene. There's a scene in I've been in Breaking the first book, Breaking Souls. So we had had a nice dinner, we had friends over, made tacos, all that, and I was putting the taco meat into the refrigerator, and I accidentally spilt it. I mean, I just had too many things in my hands at one time. He hit the ceiling in front of everybody. He's like, "Oh, yeah, you're so klutzy. Why did you spill all that?" He just went on, went on. Well, fast forward, there were some family members who had been over at his house, for, Christmas morning, and then they came over and hung out with me later in the day, but somebody spilt the blueberries. And then I said, "Oh, no. Was it like the taco meat?" And they're like, "Uh-huh." "Why? Why don't why?
I don't know.
Nobody's perfect."
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think my ex-husband really had that type of rage. I can't remember if the kids' dad was I do remember there was a lot of violence,
Mm,
but I think I kinda just blocked most of that out. Most of that was just me calling him out on things because I always thought he was cheating but could never prove it until the end.
mm. Mhm,
So whenever I would call him out on things that he was doing, like, "Well, this is a little suspicious. Why are you doing this?" And it wasn't even in an attacking way, you know? It was just like, "Why are you coming home 3 hours late?" You know?
mhm, mhm,
Or, "I know you weren't at work. They called today asking if you were coming in. Why did you leave in all your work clothes? Where have you been all day?" That sort of thing. So,
mhm,
I mean, it wasn't really, like, attacking behavior like, "Oh, you're cheating on me," you know?
mm, mhm.
But there was a lot more controlling in that relationship. But I don't know, my
Yeah,
ex-husband it was completely different type of control.
mm,
But most of it was, that I remember because I have a tendency of just blocking things out,
Oh, yeah.
um,
Get it.
but I remember most of the stuff that happened with the kids.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "I don't know why you do this," or "I don't know why that bothers me." I'm like, "Well, this is why."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot about that," you know? And but
Mhm.
they still have all the mental side effects to it.
Right.
Um, like,
Right.
he wouldn't let my son eat. I don't know what it was, but he couldn't eat. Like, if he wasn't hungry for dinner, he couldn't eat it all. And I can remember this one time, he went upstairs. I was in bed trying to go to sleep, and all I hear was my son come up the stairs and slam his door and lock it. And I was like, "What in the world is going on now?" Like, that's the sort of stuff that I had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would turn on the cameras because we had cameras in our kitchen, and I was like, "What is happening?" And all I hear is somebody screaming, "He should be able to eat," and I'm like, "Ugh, this again." And then so I watched the cameras because I knew he was gonna go in the kitchen and get something to eat. So
Yeah.
my one daughter went in the kitchen, got something to eat, he didn't say anything to her. And then he goes in the kitchen and he gets something to eat, but he wouldn't let my son eat. It was like he was always after him, and I don't know. Though that's the sort of stuff that I remember.
Yeah.
I
They
mean, I
just
could
they
handle it just because, I mean, it did affect me a lot,
Mhm.
but I was used to it. That's all I knew. So
Exactly. I mean, so it was my first marriage. I and it would always befuddled me. Like, I'd be talking with a friend of mine, and it'd be I don't know, I'm kind of a night person, and my friend would say, "Oh, like, it's 10 o'clock, and my husband's gonna go to bed, so I'm gonna say good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow." And I'm thinking, "Why do you wanna go be with him right now?" Like, I thought I thought maybe this is this normal? Is what I'm experiencing normal with the male domination, control, and all that kind of stuff? And I'm thinking, well, no. And then I started hearing other stories and other people sharing, information. I thought, wow, that's cool. That's not like my relationship.
Mhm,
And one of my friends said because of the car wreck, and I literally, like I said, I was compound fractures and I was a mess. I was just a mess. Couldn't walk, all that. And so he took care of me, like he did a lot. And one of my friends just recently said, he really did everything for you while you were covering for that. And he had complete control over you because I couldn't walk or stand or anything. He just never let go. It just intensified, intensified, intensified. And the more he could, just squash me down and take away my joy, and you give up all your pastimes too because
mhm,
you're their supply. They push your happy sad buttons. They need to get a rise, get some supply from you, get some emotional high from your emotional low or whatever's going on. But as far as daily activities or pastimes or hobbies, you drop all yours because you're going to have to do whatever they want to do. And he even made me miss. We'd been married about a year. He made me miss a family reunion. It was my uncle's birthday. He made me miss that family reunion because we had reservations at the beach, and I could have missed that one day. I mean, I only lived, like at that point, only, like, 3 hours from the beach, and then my uncle died the next year, you know, and
mhm.
he threatened my brother, drove him out of my life, and Jimmy passed away 2 years ago. I got to see him one last time. So in the books, so she has a little brother, Roman, and Blake, the narcissist, has already threatened him because
Mhm,
my brother and I were, I mean, we're 10 years age difference, but we were close. And so Roman and Charlie are close, but suddenly he just kind of, well, he went to vet school out of the country, but he just became not part of her life anymore. And she always wondered. And then after she filed, her brother called her and said, "Hey, this is what just like my brother did for me." He said, "This is what he was saying to me. This is what he was doing. This is why I couldn't be around you." And so, but I'm having instead of 20 years later, I'm having them fix this like right now. Like, they're still in their 20s. They're young. They went to college together, they have new jobs, all that. And Tally and Roman are going to go ahead and repair that sibling relationship at that point, not 20 years later. And that's what I try to drive home. He says, I'm writing these books, I'm coaching, doing talks, developing programs. These for me to say, developing programs to try to help people, particularly women, work through these relationship challenges, get out if they need to, and realize that they can move on with their lives. You
Mhm.
know, that you are enough. You can get on the other side of that tunnel
Yeah.
and be the best version of yourself. And you've had this experience, but I don't want you to go through 20 years of the HE double toothpicks that I went through. Let's figure it out right now and
Yeah, and
figure out
people
what your game plan is.
yeah, and they also I mean, biggest thing I struggled with leaving my marriage was the fact that, we were married, and I was always told that if you get married, you don't get a divorce because I'm a Christian, and, like, that's just you're
Mhm.
not supposed to do that, you know? So that was the hardest part for me. But people need to realize that God doesn't want you in a relationship that's gonna harm you. That's
No.
not he wants somebody to love you the way that he loves you, and if
Mm,
they don't love you the way that God loves you, then he doesn't want that relationship for you anyway.
mm-mm,
And
mm-mm.
I never want somebody to feel like they're stuck in a relationship because of their religion, because I did.
Yeah.
And or I would have left them years ago, like,
Mhm.
way earlier.
Right.
But I stayed so long trying to make it work, praying, did
Yeah.
all the things you're supposed to do.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not gonna work if the other person doesn't do work on themselves. And if
Well, that
something
oh,
is like, if it has like, if the roots are so deep and they don't wanna go to their roots, they're not gonna change. They're gonna be that same person.
well, and that's one thing when there's the counselor named Shannon in Breaking Solace is talking to Tally, and there comes a point in the book when she's trying to teach I mean, Tally's trying to decide, as we all do, should I keep trying to make this work or should I go? I just don't know. And so she'd be talking to Shannon, and there's one scene where Shannon just says, he is narcissistic and that is not curable because
Mhm.
it's not. I mean, not true narcissistic personality disorder starts developing in their own childhood
Yeah.
with demanding or I see monopolistic, manipulating, controlling some type of parental figure, and the neurons for empathy don't form
Mhm.
when they are very young, and then they grow up their whole life always trying to prove themselves, and it just they just spiral on down. Then they're wearing a mask, whether there's a pandemic or not. They have this mask,
Yep.
this facade, their persona that they're trying to show to the whole world when inside they're just in turmoil. They're just in
Yeah.
chaos and turmoil. And it's not curable. And you might see on TikTok or Instagram, whatever, somebody saying, well, I'm a narcissist. I'm going to tell you exactly the way it is and all that. And, you wonder what's driving whoever that person is to say, well, yeah, I've changed. And well, maybe we can adapt your personality a little bit through therapy and counseling and all that. But those neurons are never going to form for true empathy. And
Mhm.
and what they do is they want like intelligent empaths in their lives because that's a trait they don't have. And so that's where they're pulling you in and then they're just sucking your supply, sucking the life. I don't even know how to describe how I felt at that point. One of my friends, because I moved into the basement at that point after I filed, and one of my friends sent me a picture of myself like this after the divorce and all that. She ran across that during that 21 months. And what actually during the first six when I was still stuck in the marital house, I didn't recognize myself. Like
Mhm.
my eyes look so dead. I mean, just oh my god. And
Yeah.
then you see like Instagrams, whatever, and somebody will talk about getting out of a relationship and say, here's what I look like before I met them, here's what I look like during the met them, and here's what I look like now.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a dramatic change. But this gets back to what you even though it was 20 years later, I'm a little older, but it looks more like that joy, that glow, that joy, that what was emanating you. before that narcissist entered your life or that manipulative person entered your life. You get that back. And like my college roommate is like, "Oh my god, I got my don't take shit off anybody, excuse my echo too, roommate back." Like, "You're not letting yourself be you're not a doormat anymore. You've been a doormat for 20 years." I said, "Uh-huh. Yeah, no more. Mm-mm. Yeah. Yeah. If I see your caller ID on my phone and I think that I don't want it there, then I'll take it off." I don't have to put up with that anymore. Just
Yeah.
and my sister's like, "Oh my god, I got my sister back," and so yeah, but I lost my brother in the process. It's like there's a lot of time we could have spent before he got so sick, but
Mhm.
I didn't know. I didn't know. And I talked to my ex and I was like, I guess he just hates me. And 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 my ex would say, "Yeah, I'm so sorry, Skye, but you got me." He let me think my brother hated me because my ex had threatened him.
Mm.
So, you just can't make that stuff up. You just can't. So that's why in this series, things that I went through over those 2 decades are getting handled in good time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, listening to everybody tell their stories on my podcast, everybody's story is so different. So different.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's really interesting to hear,
Yeah.
because you think of abuse, and I guess this is just what I thought myself, that pretty much all abuse look the same, you know, um, not really look the same, but because I grew up in an abusive, toxic environment growing up. And
Mhm.
then as I got older, it was different. But I guess I was just like, well, I've probably seen it all. But listening to people talk, I'm like, I haven't seen all. Everybody's abuse is, their story is so different.
Right. Well, and what I've learned along the way too is, the there's some there there's some physical and mental and emotional abuse and all that in the
Mm,
Breaking Saw series, but the emotional scars, the because you're an emotional whipping post for them. Like
well,
they take everything out on you. If he lost his keys, he got mad at me. I didn't take them. Everything's your fault. If he had a bad day, it's my fault. Oh, honey, okay, here you go sit down. I'll make a nice dinner and I'll try to bring some calmness into the situation. Or that standing in the doorway listening to him being, I'm the smartest person in the company. They just don't get me.
mm,
I always have the answer and they just don't pay attention to me. I mean, he'd get the same performance review on these different things: controlling, manipulative, doesn't listen to others, has to have his own way. Entire career. Entire career. Always the same. We paid out of pocket for Dale Carnegie to try to help mitigate some of that. And still, always the same. Even last time, a couple of times he got fired, same thing. And then he's asking people around him, "Am I that way?" And yeah, figure out. But he's that way apparently at work and at home. Like it always had to be his way, what he wanted to do. And so yeah, I don't know why I put up with it for that long either. But I guess I like you. I was saying, okay, Christian, let's stick with it. Let's work through these challenges. I mean, and everybody every 6 months, I say, I really can't take it anymore. I can't take the yelling and all that. Okay, okay, okay. I'm so sorry. Let me take you to dinner. I'll change all that. Mm-mm. It just because they can't. They literally cannot change. It's the way they're wired. And so, yeah, but just the emotional and mental scars, they're there, and the whole PTSD is there. And I'm not comparing myself to a veteran or a battle. Not this is nothing compared to what these service people are doing for our country, but just the emotional battle scars come in through toxic relationships, whether
mhm,
you're married or dating. And I met I met this lady at church one day I don't know how we just kind of started talking. Just kind of started talking, and then went and had coffee and all that. And she was telling about the relationship she was in, a dating relationship, and the things he was saying and doing. And I went, "Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?" And then he said, then the next day she said, "Well, I told him we need to split up." And I said, "Okay, um, you'll probably get a gift tomorrow. It'll be something that's really special to him that he'll give to you." And I just played out the next 4 or 5 days just because I've been through that. I've been through the
Mhm.
love bombing and the hoovering and the gaslighting and all of that. She called me each day or text me like, "Oh my God, he did exactly what you said." I said, "Because, like you say, everybody's different, but there are certain behaviors in a narcissistic person that are predictable." And I told you when I was stuck in that house for 6 months before I could move out, yeah, I learned that. I mean, there were conversations that he would have with people that I would overhear, and I'm thinking, "Hmm, that's very predictable. That's very predictable." And I just started kinda taking notes and thinking about what he might do next, what he might say next, and that really helped gain some insights. Talked to my attorney a lot too, and he's my attorney said my ex is the most narcissistic person that he's ever met in his career, and he used to be a criminal attorney.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, it's just but it's hard to imagine, like, your story, like, your story, the behind closed doors and all that, if people aren't living it in an abusive relationship of some type, they don't understand. They
Yeah.
really don't understand. Is that what you found as well?
Um, I mean, yeah, but I didn't really have any friends. So, I mean, like, I had my immediate family and stuff, but as far as friends, I couldn't make friends. Because as soon as I would start making a friend, they would if I was on the phone with them, they would hear the conversation or things that was going on in the background, and they wouldn't wanna be my friend no more. I've only
Oh,
had one friend who's been with me since my kids were in preschool to still now, and I tell her all the time, like, "You should come on my podcast and talk about what it's like to have a best friend who's been here and then go to here and then see them at the end, and what it's like to watch somebody." Because she
yeah.
told me quite a few times, she's like, "I almost stopped being your friend because it just couldn't handle it." You know, not everybody can handle somebody being in a relationship like that, you know, they don't like to see their friend in something like that, and if they're not willing to leave, they don't wanna sit there and watch them in it. They don't understand because they've never experienced it, you know? I had this one girl in college, we were starting to become good friends, and she stopped being friends with me because he smoked in the house. She's like, "Why is he smoking in the house? That's bad for the kids." I'm like, "Well, I know this. You know this, but he doesn't care." She's like, "Well, tell him to go outside." I can tell him what to do all day long, but he's not gonna do what I tell him to do, you know, he's gonna do what he wants to do.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know, just
Well, I remember when I was going through the divorce, like, toward the beginning, one of my one of my really good friends, yeah, the one that I did some podcast work during the pandemic. She told me one day we were talking because apparently, like I said, I had that tribe, had a couple of close friend and my sibling, my sister, and all that, and I would just tell them like everything. Sometimes I call my text her at 3 a.m. "Are you busy? Like,
yeah.
can we talk?" And so my friend suddenly said, I went to school with a really, really awesome person, and now she's a counselor. She was married to a narcissist too, and now she's a counselor, and I think she'd really be good for you, Skye." I said, "Hint, hint, you don't wanna hear all the trash every day." She said, "Not really." So I
Mm,
see, I know what you mean. And she watched me in that relationship for a while too, and she just couldn't believe it. Like, yeah. Yeah, so then I started talking with Lindsay more often, and things got better, so that she was, yeah, you need somebody that you can talk to and be open with and all that, and that's just imperative, and another thing I'll say, I know we talked about Christianity, but you need that belief system. in your
Mhm.
life. You really do. And I remember hearing when I was still in the house, I remember hearing my ex talking with, I think it was somebody that he was a counselor or somebody he was talking with. And my ex made the statement to the person he was talking with on the phone that had recommended some books for him. He thanked her for warning him that God was in that book. He had convinced me our whole time together. They're just persuasive. He convinced me that he believed in God and, that he was following Christian values, all that. And so when we were in church, I guess he wasn't really present. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it was just all an act. It was all an act. And
Yeah.
you try not to go back for it. I fell for it. I fell for his manipulation. I fell for his schemes, his tactics, the games he played. It's like a chess match, a 20-year chess match. Like, well, I
Mhm.
don't know if I should make this move because what move is he going to make? And I'm not even a real chess player, but conceptually, I understand it's you're always thinking about the reaction, and then you start bringing in, instead of responding, like gently responding to something, you become reactive yourself. And
Yeah.
yeah, it gets pretty chaotic through the years. It does. So grateful to be on the other side for sure. And I know, like I said, those garage meltdowns, sometimes I just fall apart right there after I came in from work. And sometimes at times it felt like God was going, hey, 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 I hadn't brought you this far to leave you now. Come on,
Yeah.
come on, let's do this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the reactive part, that's truth right there
Mhm,
because I would always be told, like, "Oh, well, you do this and you do that." And I'm thinking, "Well, yeah, I do that." But then I would always wonder, "Why am I doing that?" And then after I got divorced, because it was really bad with the kids' dad too, and then, like, growing up and seeing and everything, and I'm like, "Why does everybody like, one person gets violent, everybody around them gets violent." And I did notice that after, like, I stepped back and took a look on my entire life around, just all the situations that I've been in.
mhm,
And after the divorce, the kids and I, if one of us would start just automatically reacting because we were just so used to it, we would call each other out and be like, "Hey, you're yelling right now, right?" "What do you mean I'm yelling?" Like, we didn't even realize it. And it took all of us, pointing out, like, "Hey, this is what you're doing. Why are you doing this? It's
mhm.
not that serious of a situation. Let's talk about it," and, like, we'd bring each other down. And I think it was probably about 6 plus months of all of us doing that with each other, and now it's not that bad. Like, every now and then, like, somebody will get upset at somebody and yell at someone,
Yeah.
but it's not a reactive like it was before.
Wow. That's powerful.
So
That's powerful. Wow.
'cause
That's
I
cool.
I think back and I'm like, I wasn't completely innocent in everything because I did things too. But
Mhm.
then I look back and I'm like, that's not who I am. I don't do those things now. But
Right.
you're reacting to their
You're
reaction.
reacting. Mhm. It
Yeah.
becomes a whole reactionary game every day. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah.
And
And
they find all the buttons and they like you said how you would just walk away. They don't let
mhm,
you walk away.
mm-mm.
They
No,
keep going at you and
you're running away again. I'm like, I'm just leaving the room.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So
And I don't have any of that now.
mm.
I'm just except for barking dogs every now and then, it's peaceful. It's peaceful. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But
And the
mhm,
other day I was thinking, I was like, "Oh my goodness, things are hard because you're gonna go through your hard seasons, whether or not you're in a relationship or out of a relationship.
that's
No matter
right.
what, you're gonna go through hard things." And I was sitting there and I'm like, "Oh, man, this is really hard." And then I had a thought and I'm like, "At least I'm not miserable and
Right.
going through a hard time. I'm
Right.
happy and content, and I know things
Good.
are gonna be okay and
Yeah.
calm going through a
Yeah.
hard time, you know?"
Right. Right.
And you have to remember that. Like, don't. don't get sucked in the trap of you can't make it, without me.
Mhm.
And I was always told that. Where are you gonna go?
Yeah.
Who's gonna take care of you? Who's gonna pay for this? Who's gonna pay for that?
Mhm.
And it would make me so angry, like, that was actually the tip of the iceberg for me. We got
Yeah.
into an argument one day, and he's all like, "And where you think you're gonna go? Go live with your dad?" I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, don't challenge me. Do not challenge me. Like, "Okay." That's all I said. I was like, "Okay." And then a couple and, like, a few months later, I told him, I was like, "I filed for divorce." And he asked me, he's like, "What was the breaking point for you?" And I told him, I said, "You telling me, what are you gonna do? Go live with your dad?" He knew better to say that to me.
Mhm.
He knew
Mhm.
that was gonna set me off.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's like,
Yeah.
"No, don't tell me I can't make it without you. I can make it." Like, I do you know how many times I've rebuilt my life?
Yeah.
Don't tell me I can't make it. It's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
oh,
Right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
I filed and there was supposed to be movement on his part, but he left it upside down, of course, during the pandemic, so he's working from home, upside down on his desk for a month. And then a month later, I'm in the kitchen working on my computer or whatever, and he walks by, and all I said is, "Oh, where are you going?" "See my attorney for the first time." "Are you sure you still wanna do this?" And he holds up my petition. I said, "Absolutely. Absolutely. See you when you're back."
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
just and, like, if he let it lay there for a month, I would just, like, reconsider everything and come running back to him like,
Mine
mm-mm."
was so fast. So fast.
Really?
Oh my goodness. I honestly couldn't believe how fast it did happen, and it wasn't there was nothing nasty about it. Cause I mean, I knew he wanted out, but I knew he would never file for divorce. Um, but yeah, so he was working back
Oh,
out on the road, and he was coming home every Wednesday, he was home for the day. And I had, a surgery, and while I was on surgery, I had filed for divorce. Oh my goodness, for divorce. And,
wow.
it was I didn't know when they were gonna send the papers out. They made it sound like they were gonna send them out right away. So I didn't want him to not know before he got the papers. So I just went we got into an argument about something. I won't go into what it was about. And
Mhm.
I went upstairs and I was like, "Hey, just wanted to let you know that I filed for divorce." And he's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I just wanted to let you know because I didn't know if when or if papers were gonna be sent, and, I just wanted to give you the courtesy of letting you know that they are coming." And that's when he asked what the breaking point was. And he didn't have really any reaction at all. He just laid there and just thought. I think he was shocked that I actually did it because I don't think he
Uh,
thought that I would ever do it. And then
wow.
he was like, okay, well, what are you taking me for?" And I told him, I was like, "I don't want anything." I was like, "The only thing I want is to be able to have a place to live." I said, "So these are your 2 options." Um, because I told him that in our town, you have to have 3 times the rent to rent in this town, and it's
Okay.
so expensive, and even with my salary, I could only do 2 times rent. So I told him, I was like, "You'd either have to pay me monthly for my 3rd time of, the rent for spousal support so I can find a place to live, or I can buy you out of your mortgage. I've already got pre-approved." I know he didn't want the house. So, but I wasn't on the mortgage because he got it before we got married. But I
Okay.
did get it out of foreclosure and pay his ex-wife and all this stuff to be able to keep the house when we got married, and that was a whole ordeal in itself.
Wow.
But I did all that, so, I mean, like, part of me figured I was entitled to the house anyway.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
the kids were here, they were in school, like, their whole lives were here. He and I told him, I was like, "You have income because he's retired military, so, he has all of his money. I was like, "You can find any place to live you want. So, if
Very
I
good.
was buy you out of your mortgage, it would be the easiest thing on both of us."
Mhm.
And so he thought about it, that was on a Wednesday. He went back out on the road. He came back the following Wednesday, and he showed me his hand, and he's like, "Alright, well, when does this go back to normal?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he shows me his hand. He's like, "My hand." He had already taken his wedding ring off, which whatever, fine. And I was like, "I don't know." And then he went back on the road, and while he was on the road that time, he calls me and he's all like, "Hey, make an appointment for when I come home on Wednesday and we'll sign papers." And he let me
No
so,
way.
yeah, like
Wow.
and so he said that I could buy him out of his mortgage, so I had 6 months to get it financed in my own name. By the end that was trying to think. That was in May, at the end of toward the end of May. I had the house all in my name by, like, the end of July, ended up getting a ton of money back from that. He got a little bit of money back, and I don't know, it was like God had it all worked out because he told me to leave, and I told him, I was like, "Alright, well, you're gonna have to work all this out." And he did,
Yeah.
and we met with the lawyer, and, he signed the papers, and we were sitting in and I was so anxious, like, it was so scary for me, because that's never what you want when you get married. But
Right.
also, I was like, "Ugh, is he gonna change his mind? Like, what is he gonna do?" Because he didn't wanna get his own lawyer. He didn't wanna go have a lawyer read any of his papers or anything.
What?
And
Really?
nope, didn't want any of that, probably because it was gonna cost money.
Right.
But I don't
Right.
know. I didn't ask, I didn't care. Um,
Yeah.
but, yeah, so he signed all the papers, and we were sitting in there, and he's like, "I have one question for you." And I said, "What's that?" He's like, "Are you seeing someone?" And I was like, "No, it's the last thing in the world I wanna do is see someone," Like, heck no, I'm not seeing nobody, like, ugh, last thing I was thinking about. And he's like, "Okay." So we leave, and he goes back out on the road, and then, we just had to wait for the judge to come back from wherever he was at, some conference or something to sign the papers and
Okay.
so it wasn't finalized until the end of July. So I think I filed at the end of April, and it was finalized at the end of July.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got a great
Well,
deal on my house.
that's good.
Really good deal. Because he
Wow.
was a little upset. He's all like, "Oh, man, you're gonna make bank on this house." I'm like, "I don't know how I'm gonna make bank." Like, I'm never gonna find another house paying as much money as I am now, I'm kinda stuck here for a
Mm.
little while.
Yeah.
Ugh, but
Wow. Well, that's
yeah,
amazing. I love your story. Amazing.
it was
Just,
very quick. I hear other
yeah.
people's stories, and I'm like, "Eh." And the
Yeah,
kids'
we
his
were
dad and
pushing.
I, we weren't married, so we just had to figure out the whole kid situation, and
Yeah.
that was pretty simple too. I mean, um, we had a parenting plan, which for 6 months, we didn't even hear or see from him. And then he was like, "I miss my kids." And I'm like, "Well, you can, have them whenever." And I don't know, he would have them for a little while and then he didn't want them, or he would not show up, or he wouldn't be home when I'd get there, just the whole
Yeah.
thing. And it was just like, whatever. And then I got with my husband and we wanted to move out of state, but I had to go through the whole child support thing and moving out of
Mm.
state. So, instead of going to court to see if I could move out of state, which I'm pretty sure they would have let me anyway, um, I dropped child support, and I was like, "I'll just drop child support, and, if you let me move out of state." So, he did. It took him a little while to sign the papers, but he did.
Mm.
But, of course, I had a
Wow.
lawyer for all of that too. I always have a lawyer for everything.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but, yeah, so he, let me move out of state, and then if he wanted to see the kids, he had to do all the traveling.
Okay. All right.
And, I
That's
mean,
good.
that worked out for us. I mean, he doesn't really he calls them a lot, but he doesn't really come see them a whole lot.
Okay. Wow. That's incredible. Man, like 3 months or whatever? 4 months?
Mhm. No fight at all. I was shocked. I thought there was gonna
What?
be a little bit of fight. Like, "Okay. Alright. Well, I guess I'll sign papers." What?
Yeah, no. That's well, and he every deposition meeting with her, he was always telling everybody in the room or we're on Zoom that there is no way that Skye is doing this on her own. Like, he was always convinced, and probably to this day, that I could never have done that. Like, somebody must have persuaded me or convinced me that I could never step up and divorce him on my own.
Mm.
But no, it was my decision. Nope. It was all mine. I take full credit. And and God, well, in addition to, like you say, God leading me and carrying me, mostly carrying me through the whole process because it was messy. It was real
Yeah,
messy.
and as far as finances go, like, I thought about staying until all the kids turned 18 because we were pretty financially set.
Mhm,
Um, like, I had my own job, I had my own money. That's only because I decided that I was gonna keep my money separate after so long. But,
mhm.
like, his money, his that he got from the military paid for, like, all the bills and all the food, and then he had his little side job, so he had his money. But when he went 100%, the kids got, their college paid for, like, so much of their college
Oh,
and, like,
wow.
monthly payments, and my one daughter was in college, and I knew the other ones wanted to go, and then they also got, like, Social Security or something, the younger kids did. So
Oh,
they
wow.
they were making pretty good money and had, they were making out pretty good.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I went back and forth on it like, "Okay, should I just stay until they all turn 18?" You know, they're pretty
Mhm.
set. I could handle this for a few more years. I've handled it this long. I've been in situations like this my entire life,
Yeah,
but I don't know, it got really bad. I don't remember exactly what was going on, but there was a shift. Something
yeah.
got worse, and I was just praying about it, like, "What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?" And God told me to leave now,
Mhm.
and come to find out, it was a good thing because there was some stuff going on with my son, and he told me about it after we got a divorce, and I was like, "Oh."
Oh, wow.
I was like, "It's a good thing I,
Yeah.
listened and filed for divorce." So, just because you have it made financially, you know
Mhm.
don't stay just because of those reasons,
No,
because
no.
the mental health that is going on is way more important than any money that you can ever have. Because
That
you can
is
make money,
absolutely right,
just gotta put your mind
right.
to it, you can make money. Um
Yeah, just like we're saying, the fear and the finances are where the reasons that
Mhm.
I hear most often, and the, Jamie with Allegiant Divorce Solutions, the podcast that I did a few months ago, said the same thing because they coach couples through, the marital situation, divorce situations with monetary splits and all that, and they said often it's the female who won't show up for the meetings, for the consultation meetings on how to, how to mediate this divorce process, and I don't know what it is. That's what I said. Even if you're not interested, pretend that you are,
Mhm.
and then just have a sit down conversation about what your marital finances are, because you need to know. You need to have at least some level of knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been through it before, though, a few times, so I think he just kinda knew what was coming, like, "I didn't realize your bank account would be split."
Right.
And, I mean, it was in the papers because I guess it's just regular
Mhm.
or whatever, mandatory or whatever. But,
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, the vehicles, we were already split. He had his own car, I had my own car in my name.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's not like we had a whole lot to split. The biggest thing was who's gonna get the house and where's everybody gonna live?
Right.
But my grandma lives with us, and he's like, "Well, I'll just give you the house." And he's like, "That way all of you guys have some place to live." But, it was when we sat down and we told the family about it, and it was interesting because we told my grandma about it, and she started crying, and she's like, "I thought you guys fought all the time because I was here and you didn't want me here." My
Oh my
poor
god.
heart broke, and we were both like,
Oh,
"Grandma, no, I had nothing, fighting was way before you came," you know? But poor
wow.
grandma, it's like, no
Oh.
wonder why she was always sad and depressed. And then
Mhm.
the kids and, they were a little upset about it, but he just told them, like, he had to do a lot of work on himself, and he wasn't able to do it because he didn't wanna do the work,
Right.
and it was just being toxic for everybody, and I was kinda shocked that he said that, but
Wow.
it's true. He did.
Well, it was interesting is nobody was overly surprised
Mm,
when I told them. Like, they said, "Well, we always knew there was a little something not quite right in your relationship." And my orthopedic surgeon, when I called him, he was like, "Oh my god, why didn't you call me sooner and tell me what's going on?" After I'd already filed, and I said, "No, I wasn't gonna bother you with this, I got it handled," and he said, "Well, we always knew he was controlling, we just thought you were handling it." It's
Mm,
like, "Okay then, okay then," but so glad to be on the other side. Yeah.
yeah, people found out I got a divorce and they were like, "You were married?" And I look at the kids, I'm like, "Why does nobody knew I was married?" And they all said, "Because mom, you guys were never together." But we weren't. He would go to
Yeah.
church before us or come in after us. He'd never sit with us. We were never together. Even in our house, we were never together. He would be downstairs and I would be upstairs or vice versa. Like,
Okay.
you would never have known. We're just 2 people living in the same house. He would
Yeah.
come to bed when I'm getting up, like
Wow.
yeah, so after the divorce, um, I had met a friend and he gave me a lot of attention, and I had learned, "Oh, okay." I was just so addicted to the attention. It was so unhealthy, like, I had to go through a whole healing process about that. I'm better now. I'm not like that anymore, but it was so bad because I've never
Wow.
in my life had anybody give me attention before, and I'm like, "Oh, this is what it's like. This is nice. Somebody actually wants to be around me and actually wants to have a conversation with me and is not yelling at me when they're by me,
Right.
like,
Right.
okay."
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was definitely because we couldn't even go out to dinner without fighting. We couldn't even
Yeah.
drive to the restaurant without fighting, you know, like
Wow. I'm so happy you're
mhm,
beyond that. You're out of it. Oh my god. It's just freeing, you know?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look at
But
us.
that's
Now
like
we're
you
authors,
I
building a
know.
business.
I know. It's so cool, right?
Yes.
Well, and I know that's what the message you're getting out to or
Mhm,
relaying, and I'm trying as well, is that you can move on. I mean, you don't have to. No type of abuse is okay.
mhm.
No type of abuse is okay. It's all wrong. You're not to blame. You're not your fault. It's not your fault. You ended up in this relationship. You can get out. That's
Yep.
what I just tell everybody. You can get out. And so it's but people find it hard to do sometimes. Like,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
because 'cause you're I liked, my book, the cover was supposed to be black and gray, and I sent it to my friend, and she's like, "You need light coming in through the window because now, you're going into the future and stuff," and I was like, "Okay." So she edited it for me, and I was like, "Huh." Like, that's so good. And then
Yeah.
God helped me finish the book because I didn't wanna finish it. So, I think
Right.
it's, like, page 47, it talks about the cover. And I'm
Wow.
like it basically says how, the door opens and now you see light and color and all this stuff. Because when I was in all these relationships, it was like I was in a closed door or a closed room with no window, and once in a
Yeah.
while, the door would crack open and there would be light,
Yeah.
so you can find the door, but when you get almost there, it slams shut on you. So you don't think that you can get out.
Yeah. I love that. I like that image. Yeah. But now you can see the light.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can still remember after my divorce and I started healing, just realizing how bright the sun was and how colorful everything was.
Oh, wow.
And it's just very interesting. It's like the world looked completely different to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a
Um,
lot brighter than yeah, than when you're in a bad relationship. Everything is dimmed.
mhm.
Everything is dimmed when you're in a toxic relationship. You don't see the true colors of anything, not even your own.
Nope.
Right. Right. Oh, I'm so happy for both of us, you and me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is there anything else that you want to, say to the audience or advertise about yourself? I know you talked about your book quite a bit.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the Breaking Solace trilogy, Breaking Solace, and then Escaping Solace are books 1 and 2. The book 3 is called Without Solace, and the reason Solace is in the title is that's their last name.
Mm,
So it's a paradox. So you're breaking through, you're escaping. The without is she'll have peace. And there's a screenplay being written. It was a God thing.
Oh, wow.
Met the right person who connected. So yeah, it's the story is going to continue. Yeah, the story moves on. And yeah, so my website, Skye, Skye, Bellarmine, Bellarmine.com, has all the information about my programs and books and all that. So enjoyed the time with you.
Well, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on the screenplay. That's pretty exciting. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really enjoyed our conversation. If today's episode spoke to your heart, don't forget to follow the podcast so you never miss a new story of healing and hope. Share this episode with someone who needs a reminder that they're not alone because you never know whose life it might change. If you're ready to take the next steps in your own healing journey, I invite you to check out my free quiz to see if you might be in a toxic relationship. It's a powerful first step toward clarity and freedom. You can also schedule a free clarity call with me if you're ready to break chains, release bondages, overcome limited beliefs, and build confidence and self worth. And don't forget to grab a copy of my book, Behind Closed Doors, where I share my own story of surviving domestic abuse, finding healing, and learning to trust God through it all. And thank you for turning in to Silent No Longer.